What I've just said is we believe that we didn't get enough when it comes to the F-35s. The industrial benefits are not enough. There needs to be more jobs created out of the F-35 contract. That's clear to me and clear to this government. And at the same time, we think that we can use military procurement to get more. And that is why we're looking indeed at the Gripen, and we're having conversations with Saab.
The federal government appears to be seriously considering an unsolicited bid for new fighter jets. Prime Minister Mark Carney launched a review of the previous government's F-35 fighter jet contract earlier this year after relations soured with Washington. Enter Swedish aerospace and defense company Saab. The company is pitching the Canadian government on its Gripen fighter jet and promising 10,000 jobs in Canada. The charm offensive was in full force this week, featuring senior members of the Swedish government and the royal family right here in Ottawa. Pal Jonson is Sweden's Minister of National Defense. Hi, Minister. Pleasure to welcome you to Canada and also to our studio. I appreciate you making the time.
Wonderful to be back in Canada again.
Would you and your delegation be here if there wasn't a good chance that Canada purchased the Gripens?
Yeah, that's not what it's about. This is, of course, we're going with His Majesty the King to Canada because we are moving from being partners to being allies inside NATO. That makes a big difference for our Swedish-Canadian relationships. There's many things we have in common. I'm very proud that the Swedish soldiers right now are serving shoulder to shoulder with the Canadian soldiers in Latvia. Thank you for the leadership you're providing there. I think we're very united also when it comes to supporting Ukraine. I always say supporting Ukraine is the right thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do, and it's investment into our own security. In addition, of course, I think another thing that unite us is not just playing great ice hockey and the cold weather, but it's actually the Arctic, which is has to be higher up on NATO's agenda, and we're very much looking forward to those discussions here today.
I have a number of questions on the last two things you identified, the Arctic and in particular Russia, but I do have to circle back to the original point of my question. So it's your contention that that isn't the point of the trip in order to further on discussions where the Gripens are concerned? Because our minister has certainly been speaking that way. Your colleague, the Deputy Prime Minister, indicated that was the case. You don't believe it is?
No, I mean, that's part of our relationship as well, and I'm very glad that Saab and Bombardier are teaming up very well and very closely when it comes to the Global Eye, which is an airborne sensor, and there's a great interest for the Global Eye, and if we can do more things in the avionics side between Sweden and Canada, we'll be the first to welcome that. But I know also you have a review right now in your fighter aircraft decision. I want to be clear, this is a decision for Canada, it's a decision for the Canadian people. We stand open, but it has to be Canada who makes the operational requirements you need, and you're thinking what kind of industrial participation and innovation and so forth. So it's for Canada to make, and we have lots and lots of things that tie us together and lots of things to talk about.
And I certainly appreciate that. I think because of the way in which the company and the other people from the government have been speaking about it, Canadians have a lot of questions, right? And the proposition of jobs being created here, all of that. From an operational perspective, you obviously would be familiar with what the Gripens can produce. There's a lot of people, proponents of the F-35s, who say it simply cannot, it is not a match for what the F-35s can offer. Based on your knowledge of what the Gripens can or can't do, how would you respond to that?
Well, without going into what should be a Canadian debate, and Canada
I'm asking generally.
I can say that the Gripen fighter is a uniquely good aircraft, and it's uniquely good also to be matched against the Russian Air Force capability. There's no, we're laser focused on what they're doing, and that's of course why the Ukrainians are very interested into the Gripen. And we're proud to, just a few weeks ago, the announcement by President Zelensky and my Prime Minister that we aim to strengthen the Ukrainian Air Force with up to 150 fighter aircraft, so all based on the Gripen Echo. And so it's a very good and it's a very agile fighter aircraft. It has a very good what's called a life cycle cost, which is makes it efficient, and has a small logistical footprint, which actually makes it easy to operate as well. And then of course when we engage into this kind of cooperation, we're not looking for clients, we're looking for partners, and we need to find countries also who have a matching defense industrial base as well. And that's of course why we're so interested in the cooperation between Bombardier and Saab, which so far has proven very, very good and efficient.
You characterize sort of more broadly, not just this, all the other stuff, Global Eye, partnership around Latvia, and as expanding from ally, I believe it was, to partnership. Do you think that transformation would be underway if not for Donald Trump?
No, I mean, we have on our own merits, so why we joined NATO, and that's a big transformation. That was not because of the US domestic politics, it was because of what Russia is doing. Russia started a full-scale invasion against Ukraine. I think the Swedish population got it, that it's a difference between partnership and membership. And since we are part of NATO right now, we're not just part of NATO, but we're actually in the same area of responsibility. It's Sweden, it's the United States, it's Canada, and it's the other 4 Nordic countries are in the same JOA, as it's called, run also from Norfolk. That means that we need to cooperate much closer, and being tied together with our interest in the Arctic, keeping the alliance strong and deterring and defending.
I meant the specifics between Canada and Sweden, because a lot has happened since the summer, this visit included. Do you think things would be where they're at if not for the change in posture from the United States?
Yeah, well, that's a question for Canada to answer. I think not Sweden.
Respectfully, the question is for you, Minister.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, Canada has to make up their decision. We're standing open for partnership. I think we're doing a great thing so far with the Global Eye. If Canada is interested, I think we have a good offer, but that has to be an issue between the US and Canada, which is not my job to go into that as well. What I think, and to the merit also of the Trump administration, is that it's pushing all our allies to invest more into their defense capability. That is long overdue. The US is clearly communicating right now that other allies inside NATO has to shoulder a larger responsibility. Sweden is doing it. We will reach 3.5% by 2030. I know Canada is well on its way. I understand and I respect that's going to force you to do some hard decisions, but I think it's absolutely necessary that we all do it, because unfortunately we've been entering a much more dangerous time due to Russia's illegal invasion into Ukraine.
I want to talk about exactly that, because this week something very significant has happened in Poland. The Polish government has said that Russia is behind the sabotage of the train track from Warsaw to the Ukrainian border. It's not the first sort of alleged incursion on European territory or action on European territory. And I wondered, from your perspective, if you think, and I know it's difficult to ascertain what kind of strategy, if any, Putin is employing, but ultimately it feels like from the outside that he's trying to get European countries to be more worried about their own backyard than Ukraine. Do you think that is what he is trying to do? And ultimately, how important is it that he is not successful in that?
Yeah. Couple of things here. Of course, we've been seeing Russia over time engaging in more and more reckless hybrid operations. It has been disinformation, has been cyber incidents, it's been cyber espionage, it's been pure acts of kinetic kind of sabotage. We are deeply critical against Russia. What is Russia trying to do? It's trying to disunite us, and is trying to scare us from supporting Ukraine. And Russia will fail in this endeavor, because we realize that supporting Ukraine is actually also an investment into our own security, because right now it's the Ukrainians who are the shield against Russian military expansion. And would that shield fall because we don't have the willingness, the economic clout, the endurance to support Ukraine, that would mean that we will all be much worse off in security terms. So what we need to do right now is to enhance our resilience against this kind of hybrid operation and stand firm and united. I mean, for example, I think it was excellent that last time it happened when we had the big incursions into the Polish airspace, where actually some Russian drones also fell down on the ground, and NATO acted with unity and resolve, and it also started a new NATO operation called Eastern Century. So we need to respond also when Russia is doing this kind of behavior. So Russia will get it, that it will fail in trying to unite us, and that we are dead set determined on keeping the alliance safe and strong and deterring every inch of Allied territory.
How strong is that unity? Because I think the goal for Putin, right, as you said, is disunity, to create cracks in the resolve. How strong is it?
It is very strong, and I'm proud and I'm glad that Sweden just joined the strongest alliance in the world, and it's getting stronger by Sweden and Finland inside NATO, Sweden being safer inside NATO and NATO being stronger with us as an alliance. I see when it was tested in Poland, when it was tested in Estonia and Romania, it was always the same response by the allies: one for all for one. And let's continue doing that on both being a strong political message, of cohesion and unity, but also take those proportional matters to strengthen our ability to deter and defend. Putin understands heavy metal, and he has a lot more heavy metal on his borders now because he started an unprovoked war in Ukraine. And without that war, Sweden and Finland would not be part of NATO. I always call that the mother of all intended consequences. Russia had one goal with Sweden and Finland, which was keep us out of NATO. When they started a war in Ukraine, we joined the alliance.
Minister, I'll leave it on that note. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we come back, the Liberals survive a confidence vote on the budget, but just barely. With the Tories and the Bloc and most of the NDP voting against it, the vote passed thanks to 2 abstentions apiece from the NDP and Conservatives. What does it say about the House dynamics with just 3 sitting weeks left before the holiday? That's a question for our Sunday strategy session. Kathleen Monk-Kreuznach and Scott Reed are here shortly.